Welcome to Movie Xtra. Today I will show you the 2022 Pinocchio movie in 7 minutes. Let me know in the comments what you think of this movie. The film opens with someone narrating the story of the woodcarver Geppetto. He used to live peacefully with his son Carlo during the outbreak of World War I, sharing stories and working on Geppetto's creations together. One day, Geppetto is hired to build a crucifix at the church. They are forced to go home when fascist planes fly over Italy and drop bombs on nearby locations. Carlo runs back into the church for a pine cone he dropped, one that his father said was perfect because it had all its scales, and a bomb drops on the church, killing the boy in front of his father. Geppetto grieves Carlo's loss for many years, even after he buried the pine cone in the earth and it grew into a tree over the boy's grave. In his drunken sorrows, Geppetto chops the tree down, and he brings a large log of it to his house. He begins to carve a wooden boy but leaves him unfinished, missing an ear. Geppetto passes out, and Sebastian the cricket who lived in the log wanders the house. At night, several eyeball spirits enter the house and form the body of the wood sprite. With her magic, she gives life to the puppet, which she names Pinocchio. Sebastian protests this, but the wood sprite requests that the cricket guide Pinocchio in his life in exchange for a wish. He agrees, hoping to use the wish to gain fame and wealth. Geppetto wakes up in the morning to find Pinocchio alive and playing around the house. He is freaked out at first upon seeing a talking wooden boy and a cricket, but Pinocchio expresses childlike excitement at everything he finds in the house. Geppetto has to go to church, so he locks Pinocchio in the closet and orders him to stay there. Despite Sebastian's suggestion to do as Geppetto says, the boy's curiosity gets the better of him, and he leaves to join Geppetto at church. Pinocchio enters the church and reveals himself too. Everyone is horrified at the sight of a living puppet. When Pinocchio declares himself to be a real boy made of flesh and bone, his nose begins to grow. Geppetto is forced to take him home. Geppetto fixes Pinocchio's nose and is visited by the Podesta and priest, along with the Podesta's son Candlewick. They discuss making Pinocchio a model citizen to ensure he is not a threat to society. Pinocchio sits next to Candlewick and mimics his movements before sticking his feet in the fireplace. The Podesta orders Geppetto to send Pinocchio to school, and he agrees. When Geppetto goes to sleep, Sebastian tells Pinocchio about Carlo and how Geppetto continues to mourn him. Pinocchio heads to school but is intercepted by Volpe, who convinces the boy to join his circus to become famous. Pinocchio signs a contract by drawing a smiling sun, and he joins Volpe and his monkey assistant Spazzatura. Pinocchio makes a good impression on Volpe's audience as a singing puppet with no strings. Geppetto finds out from the Podesta that Pinocchio didn't go to school, and he finds the boy at the circus. He argues with Volpe over where Pinocchio belongs, and they begin pulling on him, leading to Pinocchio flying into the street, where he is hit by a car, effectively killing him. Pinocchio wakes up in the afterlife and meets Death, who is the sister of the wood sprite. She is annoyed that her sister gave life to Pinocchio, but she explains to him that since he is not technically a real boy, he can continue to die and come back to life over and over. Pinocchio returns to life in front of Geppetto, Volpe, the Podesta, and others. The Podesta thinks Pinocchio being immortal can make him a useful soldier in the war, but Volpe insists Pinocchio belongs to him since he signed the contract. Geppetto takes him home, getting into an argument with Pinocchio since he wants to join the war, and Geppetto calls him a burden. Thinking he can help his father financially, Pinocchio returns to Volpe and asks that he send Pinocchio's earnings to Geppetto, to which Volpe agrees even though he is clearly lying. Geppetto and Sebastian try to find the boy themselves. They take a boat to an island where he may be headed, but they are devoured by a sea monster. Pinocchio continues to be a hit for Volpe's show. Spazzatura uses marionettes to speak to Pinocchio, saying that Volpe isn't actually sending Geppetto his money and that he is using him, while also claiming Spazzatura is his favorite. Volpe beats Spazzatura for trying to turn Pinocchio against him, but the boy confronts Volpe for his treatment of the monkey. Volpe shows Pinocchio his true colors and says he is the master of both him and Spazzatura, threatening both of them if they try anything against him again. Volpe puts on a show for Prime Minister Benito Mussolini and Pinocchio puts on a crude display to mock Mussolini in front of Volpe as payback. Mussolini orders Pinocchio to be shot and for the circus to be burnt down. Pinocchio returns to the afterlife and waits to be revived. Pinocchio reawakens on his way to a fascist training camp along with the Podesta and Candlewick. While there, Pinocchio befriends Candlewick, as he reveals his feelings towards his father for how he is trying to mold him into his image and fight in an unnecessary war. They play a game of capture the flag using paintball guns and have fun doing it, but when they announce that they reached a tie, the Podesta orders Candlewick to break the tie and shoot Pinocchio with a real gun. Airplanes then begin flying overhead to attack. When the Podesta continues to demand Candlewick pick up the gun, he stands up to his father for the first time. The Podesta attempts to shoot Pinocchio himself, but Candlewick hits him with a paintball gun and gets him caught in a net, trapping him just as he watches a bomb drop down on him in the school. Pinocchio is thrown into the ocean but is found by Volpe and Spazzatura. Volpe ties Pinocchio to a cross and prepares to burn him for costing him his show and humiliating Mussolini. The monkey finally turns on his master. He frees Pinocchio and tackles Volpe off the cliff, where he lands on a rock, and Spazzatura falls into the ocean. Pinocchio jumps in after him, and they are swallowed by the same sea monster that got Geppetto and Sebastian. Pinocchio reunites with Geppetto and comes up with a way to get them out of the monster. He begins to tell enough lies to get his nose to grow big enough to reach the monster's blowhole. As Pinocchio makes his way over, he falls with Geppetto, but the monster blows everyone out of the hole. The monster then goes after Pinocchio, who has found a sea mine. The monster then starts charging toward Geppetto, Sebastian, and Spazzatura, but Pinocchio activates the mine and blows the monster to chunks. When Pinocchio gets to the afterlife, he begs Death to let him go back faster to save Geppetto, but she warns him that if he breaks the waiting rules, he will become mortal and not come back to life. Pinocchio shatters the hourglass that sends him back, so he goes immediately to save Geppetto from drowning. Everyone reaches the shore, but Pinocchio is dead for real. Geppetto weeps for his son, and the wood sprite appears from behind him. She tells Geppetto that Pinocchio's sacrifice for him made him a real boy, but he cannot come back. Sebastian then uses his wish to bring Pinocchio back to life, and the wood sprite grants it for him. Pinocchio returns and is happily embraced by all. Sebastian concludes his tale by saying that Pinocchio had many great memories with Geppetto, Spazzatura, and himself. However, everyone Pinocchio loves will have to go someday, and one by one, Geppetto, Sebastian, and Spazzatura all pass on. After Pinocchio is left alone, he heads off for a new adventure. This was Pinocchio in 7 minutes. For more videos like this, please leave a like and subscribe. I would really appreciate it.